This is the first video in the series, Navigate the Linux System like a Pro. At the end of this video, you learn how to see what files and directories you have in your Linux system, how to move around the computer by changing your working directory, how to specify the location of a file or a directory, and the difference between relative and absolute paths. Let's jump straight in. Before you go anywhere, figure out where you are first. That sounds like something a monk would say. And that brings us to our first command. When you're in the terminal, you can check where you are using the pwd command, which stands for print working directory. And it does exactly what the name says. It prints the path to your current working directory. Knowing where we are before running commands is important because most commands read and write files in the current working directory. Here's an example of running pwd in your home directory. Before going any further, let's try and understand how the whole file system is organized. On Ubuntu, the folder structure looks something like this. The root directory holds everything. It is represented with a /. Every other directory is contained inside it. From our example above, when we run the pwd command, we can see we are in the directory Akuya, which is inside the home directory, which is inside the root directory. Now that you know where you are in the file system, how can you see the contents of the folder you're in? This is where the command ls comes in. Head over to your terminal and type this command. The output depends on what you actually have in your home folder. The ls command prints the names of directories and files in the current working directory. This command, as many others, also take in options to modify the output of the command. Options are usually prefixed with a dash or a double dash, dash. An example of an option to pass in the ls command is the uppercase F option. This option classifies the output by adding a marker to a file or directory to indicate what they are. A trailing / shows that it's a directory, the @ symbol indicates a link, and the asterisk indicates an executable. Here's how you run the ls command with the uppercase F option. Apart from the uppercase F option, the ls command has many more options. To figure out how to use a command and all the options it accepts, you can run the ls command with the -- help option. The other way to learn more about a command is by using the man command, followed by the command you want to know about. For example, man ls. The man command, which stands for manual, turns your terminal to a manual page of the command. You can scroll the manual page using the up and down arrow keys or using the vim commands K and J for up and down respectively. To quit out of the manual page, press the Q key. Here are some interesting options for the ls command. This command lists all the content of the current working directory, including the hidden files, starting with a dot. This command lists all content of the current working directory, just like the previous one, but in long format. And this command lists contents of the current working directory and sorts them by time, the newest coming first. Here's a little homework. What options would you pass along with the ls command to list contents of the current working directory in long format, reverse ordered by the time they were modified? Write your answer in the comment section below. So far, we've been looking at listing contents of the current working directory. But you can also list the content of other directories. You can do this by passing the path of the directory you're targeting after the options in the ls command if there are any. Here's an example of displaying the content of the downloads directory, which is inside our current working directory. The path downloads is a relative path. A relative path is a path that considers the current working directory. There are several interesting ways to navigate using the relative path. But before we get into it, let me first introduce the cd command. This command stands for change directory, and from the name, we get to know what it actually does. It takes us to another directory. The cd command takes in a path as its argument. If you wanted to go into the downloads directory, we would use the following command. Another way to go into a folder contained in the current working directory will be by adding the relative path //. Here's an example. The ./ is a relative path that represents the current working directory. If you wanted to go back to the parent directory, we could run the following command. The 2 dots is a relative path that represents a folder up, or the parent directory. You can change the 2 dots to go 2 folders up. Here's how you would go to the home folder from the movies folder, which is contained in the downloads folder. Since the home folder was 2 directories up in the previous example, here are other ways in which you can go to the home directory regardless of where you are in your file system. You can do so by using the relative path symbol for home, which is the tilde symbol. Here's how you do it. Or we can just simply type cd, which always takes us back home. I wish there was a way to use this in real life. I wouldn't have been lost that much as a kid. Instead of using relative paths, we can also use absolute paths. Absolute paths are the full paths of the file or directory from the root. We actually saw an absolute path before when we ran the pwd command. Let's run it again and see the absolute path of our current working directory. If we wanted to go to the download folder from home, we could pass the absolute path like so. Another useful symbol to pass to cd is the dash symbol. This symbol takes us to the previous directory we were in. Think of it as the back button in a browser. As an example, let's say we were in the movies folder. Let's navigate there using this command. I'll pass in the absolute path for this example. Then let's assume we need to access the documents folder, which is contained in our home directory. I'll navigate there using the relative path. If we wanted to go back to our movies folder now, instead of passing the relative or absolute paths, we could pass the dash, and that would take us to the folder we were at last. If we wrote the same command again, it would take us back to the documents folder. That's it for this first video. But before we go, let's do a quick recap. We have looked at the pwd command, which prints the current working directory. We then looked at the ls command, which prints the contents of a directory. We looked at various options that the ls command takes, and we also learned about the cd command, which changes the directory we are in to the specified one. We then looked at relative and absolute paths and how to use them to navigate the file system. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like it and subscribe for more content like this. If you're a C programmer or just getting started with C, check this other video I made where I went into detail explaining the compilation process of C programs using GCC. Thank you and see you on the next one.